They said I was too opinionated, too loud, too much. They said I wasn't gentle enough, not graceful, not soft-spoken, not the kind of woman a man would proudly introduce to his mother. They said I wasn't wife material. And for a long time, I believed them. I smiled too wide. I asked too many questions. I didn't lower my eyes or bite my tongue when someone made a crude joke at dinner. I wasn't the kind to be chosen, just tolerated until something better came along. They didn't say it to my face, not at first, but I could feel it. In the silence, in the glances, in the way invitations stopped coming, how I became an afterthought in my own family. They rewrote my story before I had a chance to live it, stamped me with their labels, filed me under too difficult and moved on. But it wasn't failure. It was something bigger, just not visible yet. Not to them, not even to me. They said I would grow bitter, alone, irrelevant. But stories have a funny way of unfolding. Sometimes the chapters that seem like the end are really the beginning. My name is Alina Brooks. I'm 31 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas. They said I was too complicated to love. And maybe I am. But I wasn't put here to be simple. I wasn't born to be someone's checkbox. I was meant to write. Not just sentences, truths. Not just books. Echoes of every woman who never fit the mold. And the moment my book hit #1, the same mouths that once whispered behind my back, they went quiet. But that's not where the story begins.
No.
This story starts in the quiet moments. When no one's watching. When you're sitting at rock bottom and all the lights have gone out, but you still reach for the pen. I was supposed to be the one who had it all together. At least that's what my parents used to say when I was younger. You're the responsible one, my dad would smile. The steady one. The girl who got straight A's. The one who packed her own lunch in 5th grade. The one who got into UT Austin on her first try. There was a plan. College. Marriage by 26. 2 kids before 30. A house in the suburbs.
Dinner on the table by 6.
And for a while I tried. I tried so hard to be their vision of success. I even got engaged at 25 to a man who, on paper, seemed perfect. Ben was smart, polite, well-employed, and came from a good family, whatever that meant. But he never really saw me.
Not the real me.
He liked how I looked next to him, liked my quiet support at his work parties, liked that I made plans around his schedule, not mine. But he didn't like my writing, said it was too intense. He didn't like when I challenged him in arguments, said it was exhausting. And he especially didn't like when I started talking about wanting to publish someday. You should focus on being a wife, he said. Books don't pay the bills. I remember the exact moment he said it. We were sitting at our favorite Mexican restaurant, sipping margaritas. I had just shared a short story I got published in a local magazine. I was glowing. But his face? Blank. No pride. Just disappointment. That night, he told me I had changed. But really, I was just waking up. We broke up a week before the wedding. My family was horrified. My mom didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. My aunt whispered, "What did you do to make him leave?" No one believed I was the one who walked away. The wedding was canceled. The gifts were returned. And I was quietly erased. She's just taking a break, they'd say when people asked. She'll find someone new. She's still young. But I didn't want someone new. I wanted me. The version I had buried to become likable. The version who used to fill notebooks with stories instead of grocery lists. I tried going back to the corporate job I'd left during my engagement, but the fluorescent lights and soul-sucking meetings made me feel invisible. So I quit. Again. This time, there was no safety net. No man. No job title. No applause. Just me. And an old laptop with a cracked screen. And silence. A lot of it. My friends moved on with their weddings and baby showers. I stayed home, writing in coffee shops and convincing myself I wasn't wasting time. No one asked what I was working on. No one cared. I remember Thanksgiving that year. I was sitting at the kids' table again. Not because there wasn't room at the adult table, but because that's where they thought I belonged. My cousin showed off her diamond ring. My uncle talked about his daughter's med school graduation. And when someone asked about me, my mother just smiled tightly and said, "Oh, Alina's just figuring things out." I laughed in the bathroom that night. Laughed until I cried. Because I was figuring things out.
Just not in the way they could understand.
I was shedding everything they told me I had to be. And for the first time, I was listening to my own voice. But no one noticed.
It started with a blog.
Not a flashy one. Just a simple white page with black text. No ads, no followers, no viral dreams. Just words. Mine. I called it the unpolished truth. Because that's what it was. Unfiltered, messy, honest. I didn't write for anyone. Not for a man. Not for my parents. Not even for readers. I wrote to breathe. At first, it felt pointless. A few likes here and there. A kind comment from someone in Germany I'd never met. But still, I showed up. Every day. Every morning at 6 a.m., even when the world told me it wouldn't matter. I wrote about the pain of being labeled. The grief of losing a life I never wanted in the first place. The loneliness of being too much in a world that worships quiet girls. And slowly, people started to respond. A woman from Nebraska emailed me. "Your words felt like my inside voice. Thank you for saying what I couldn't." A single father in Ohio commented, "Reminds me of my late wife. She used to write like this too." But the moment that stayed with me, the one that stitched something back together inside me, happened in a tiny library just outside of Austin. I had picked up a part-time job teaching creative writing to seniors. It paid next to nothing, but it gave me a reason to shower, to show up, to speak. There was a woman in my Wednesday class. Her name was Judith. 78 years old, cane in hand, lipstick always slightly crooked. She never spoke during class. Just listened. Took notes. Then one afternoon, she handed me a crumpled notebook. "Read this," she whispered, sliding it across the table like contraband. Inside were 10 pages of letters. To a son she hadn't spoken to in 15 years. They weren't polished. They weren't perfect. But they were raw and aching and human. Asked if I could read one aloud. She nodded, tears filling her eyes before I even began. The class went quiet as I spoke her words into the room. When I finished, Judith whispered, "That's the first time he's been in a room with me in over a decade." Later that night, I emailed her a typed version of her letter. She printed it, mailed it. 2 weeks later, he called. She came to class the next day glowing like she was 20 again. Held my hand and said, "You brought my baby into my living room." That moment didn't make headlines. It wasn't trending on Twitter. But it mattered. God, it mattered. It reminded me why I started writing in the first place. Not to impress. Not to win. But to connect. To make invisible people feel seen. To make the quiet ones believe their voices still counted. So I kept going. Every blog post, every class, every scribbled journal entry. It was all one long inhale. After years of holding my breath, what began as quiet ripples started turning into waves. By the end of that year, the unpolished truth had crossed 20,000 monthly readers. Mostly women. Mostly unheard. Many emailed me in secret from their offices, their minivans, their midnight bedrooms, telling me how they bookmarked my page like prayer. Some told me their husbands didn't know they were reading. Some told me they were finally leaving. I didn't see myself as brave. I still lived in the same studio apartment with creaky floorboards and chipped cabinets. Still ate cereal for dinner more nights than I'd admit. Still taught Judith and her friends every Wednesday at the library. But something was growing. Not just traffic. Conviction.
Voice. Purpose.
I started getting invited to podcasts. Then panel discussions. Then came a small publishing offer from a woman-owned press in Brooklyn. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough to get my first book into the world. I titled it Undone. It was a collection of essays.
Raw.
Personal. Messy. About the lies women are taught to swallow in silence. About how the word wife material was often code for obedient and exhausted. The book went out quietly. No national tour. No publicist. Just a quiet post to my readers. And then, it exploded. A therapist in Chicago posted about it on Instagram. A single paragraph. It went viral. Sales tripled overnight. Then tripled again. By week 3, Undone had hit number 3 on the Amazon nonfiction list. By week 5, it was number 1. I cried in the bathroom of my apartment the day the email came in. Sat on the cold tile floor, staring at the screen like it was a mistake. But it wasn't. I had built something from nothing. With no help. No marketing degree. No husband. No permission. Just me. And my words. And the people who needed them. I started receiving letters from women in rehab, in shelters and prison. One wrote, "I read your book and remembered who I was before the bruises." Another said, "My daughter caught me crying. I told her it was the first time I felt seen." My website crashed 5 times that month. I had to hire a friend's cousin to help me set up a waitlist. We had 11,000 subscribers in 3 days. I launched an online journaling workshop for women who had never written a word. It filled up in 6 minutes. I offered another. Then another. At our peak, we had over 9,000 women journaling every week from 42 countries. I was working 12-hour days. Answering emails at midnight. Voice recording responses for those too tired to read. And still teaching Judith and the seniors every Wednesday.
But when I told my family,
Silence. My mother's exact words were, "Oh, a book? That's cute." My brother, who ran a real estate business, laughed. Teaching old folks to click buttons? Real noble work. And then, "So, is this like a hobby, or do you actually pay bills with it?" I didn't flinch. Not anymore. I had thousands of strangers cheering me on. But the people at my own dinner table looked at me like I was still the girl who ran away from her wedding. I bought a used car with my book royalties. Sent a check to my dad to help with some medical bills. He cashed it without saying thank you. There was no congratulations. No pride. Just silence. Or worse, condescension. She's always been the free spirit. They'd shrug at family gatherings. Like I was some leaf in the wind. Not a woman who built an entire global platform from a coffee shop and a cracked laptop. But I kept going. Because even though they didn't see me, thousands did. And I was no longer writing for the ones who ignored me. I was writing for the ones who were still finding the strength to speak. It was supposed to be just another reading. An independent bookstore in Dallas had invited me for a quiet evening with local authors. There were mismatched chairs, a half-eaten cookie tray, and the faint hum of jazz playing through dusty speakers. I wore the same green blouse I'd worn for Judith's birthday party. Nothing fancy. There were maybe 30 people in the room. A mix of college students, older women, and a few shy-looking couples. I read a passage from Undone about the quiet violence of expectations, how being wife material often meant shrinking to fit someone else's hunger. When I looked up, I noticed a man standing near the back. Well-dressed. Mid-30s. Eyes locked on mine. He approached after the reading. Held a copy of Undone in his hands, creased, underlined, well-loved.
"Hi," he said.
"I'm sorry, this is going to sound weird." I smiled, bracing myself for another vague compliment. But he didn't offer one. He looked shaken. "My fiancée read this book 2 months ago," he continued. "She couldn't stop talking about it. Honestly, I didn't really pay attention. But then she made me read the part about shame being a cage we decorate." He held up the book and showed me the underlined sentence. We ended up staying up all night just talking, really talking for the first time in years. She told me things I didn't know she was carrying. I nodded, stunned silent. He looked around, then leaned in slightly. "She's here. In the cafe next door. She doesn't know I'm talking to you. But she said this book saved our relationship. Gave her back her own voice. And now," he paused, "we're getting married next weekend.
For the right reasons this time.
Not the ones our parents pushed on us." Something hitched in my throat. And I needed to thank the author. I gave a small laugh. "Well, thank you. That means a lot." "No," he said, confused. "I mean the real author." I blinked. "That's me." His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. You're Alina Brooks? I nodded slowly. He stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. Then he smiled, eyes glistening. I pictured someone older. I don't know. Wiser. Louder maybe. Sorry to disappoint, I said with a shy laugh. Not disappointed. Just surprised. He reached out, gently, and shook my hand. Thank you.
Seriously.
You didn't just write a book. You opened a door. He turned to leave, then paused. Would it be okay if I brought her in? Just to say hello? I nodded. A minute later, a woman walked in. Dark hair in a braid, soft eyes, nervous hands clutching a coffee cup. She looked at me, froze. Then smiled, slowly, beautifully. I told him your book changed everything, she said. But I never thought I'd actually meet you. I offered her a hug. She took it. In that embrace, something clicked inside me. All the family dinners I wasn't invited to, all the free spirit jokes, all the silence I'd swallowed over the years. They didn't matter anymore. Because here was a woman who had fought her way back to herself, because of my words. And a man who had learned how to listen, because of the sentences I scribbled in the dark. That night, I walked out of the bookstore into the cool Texas air. No cameras. No applause. No stage lights. But something followed me home.
Peace.
Not because I demanded attention, but because the truth walked in by itself and refused to stay quiet. Something shifted after that night. Not outside. Inside. I no longer checked my inbox every morning hoping for a message from my mom. I no longer stared at family photos wondering where I fit. I'd stopped needing to be explained. I'd started simply existing. Living. Fully. A month after the Dallas reading, a small envelope arrived in the mail.
Handwritten.
No return address. I opened it slowly, careful not to tear the paper. Inside was a folded note. In my mother's handwriting. Alina, I read your book. I didn't understand all of it, but I saw your heart. I see it now.
Love.
Mom. I stared at the paper for a long time. No fanfare. No apology. Just a quiet reaching out.
And it was enough.
I didn't frame the letter. Didn't laminate it. Didn't even take a picture. I just kept it, tucked inside the back cover of Undone, a private bookmark for a public story. Later that week, my brother called, said he was at a networking event, and someone mentioned my name. You've got fans now, huh? He joked. I chuckled. Apparently. Then he paused. Look, I didn't get it before. What you were doing. Why it mattered. But now I think I do. That was it. No grand apology. Just a pause.
A shift.
And again, it was enough. Judith, my Wednesday library friend, gave me a crocheted bookmark that said, Author Lady. Said I was her favorite internet daughter. A young girl from Montana sent me a handwritten story she wrote after reading my book. It was about a wolf who learns she doesn't have to follow the pack. It's pinned to my fridge. I stopped trying to fix my family's perception of me, because the truth is, it was never broken. They just never knew how to see a woman who refused to dim her light. And that wasn't mine to fix. I found freedom in that.
Peace.
Not the loud, Instagrammable kind. The quiet, lived-in kind. The kind that curls up beside you at night and whispers, You made it, girl. You made it without them seeing, and that's okay. It wasn't pride. It was something deeper. Something rooted. I didn't need their applause. I'd built something bigger than applause. I'd built truth. And when truth is enough for you, even silence feels like a song. If you've ever felt like you weren't enough for someone, too loud, too soft, too opinionated, too emotional, too driven, too different, this story was for you. If you've ever sat in a room full of people who called themselves family and still felt completely unseen, this story was for you. If you've ever been told you weren't wife material, or daughter material, or success material, and you believed it, even for a second, this story was for you. I'm not special. I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have secret confidence or divine timing. I had pain and a pen and the stubborn belief that maybe, just maybe, my story deserved to be told. And now look, not because I clawed for a spotlight, but because I sat with my silence until it spoke back. Because I made peace with being misunderstood. And in that peace, I created something that couldn't be ignored. There is something holy about building a life no one claps for. Something sacred in choosing to grow, even when no one's watching. So, if you're in the in-between, if you're still being doubted, dismissed, forgotten, stay soft, stay stubborn, stay rooted, write the story, open the bakery, take the course, say the thing they told you not to say, be inconvenient, be unruly, be undeniably you, because one day, someone you've never met will stand in a bookstore, holding your truth in their hands, and whisper, "Thank you, I needed this." And in that moment, you'll realize you didn't need to be chosen. You chose yourself, and that was always enough. Tell me your story. Where are you watching from? What chapter are you in right now? I want to hear it, because someone else needs it. Someone else is waiting for your truth to wake them up. Thank you for being here, for sitting in this quiet, intimate moment with me. There are more stories coming. Real ones. Human ones. Yours, mine, ours. We're building something honest here. One breath at a time. One scar at a time. One whispered "me too" at a time. This is for the ones who were told they weren't anything and became everything. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.